Thank you so much for having me, Katherine. I'm excited to do this will be my first live reading. So for all of you who don't know me, my name is Joanna Reeder, and I have my debut novel published in 2018. So I've been doing this for a few years. My debut series was time travel romance. It's a little different than most. But I've also written shifters, and I have recently been writing fairy. And so the book I'm going to read to you today is Courting Fae Thieves and Crowns. It just released last Wednesday, so this is a new release. It was first on Kindle Vella, and I started putting episodes on there in July of 2021, right when Kindle Vella started. And thank you, Katherine. I just love this story. I just love it so much. It has all my favorite stuff in it. So it's about Amberly, who is a half fae, and she's a thief. She thieves to survive. And the king comes and asks for her help. He asks her to go undercover in like a bridal competition, like a bachelor type competition, to see which of the fae would be the best fit for the prince. The thing is she knows the prince and she doesn't like him, but the king tells her that if she enters this competition, he'll release her father from prison, and he's been in there for a really long time. And so she agrees to it. Look how gorgeous the cover is, and I have to show you the hardcover because it is also so gorgeous. This is a scene from the book, and it's on the hardback, so I'll have it there for you to watch it. Okay, so I'm not starting at the beginning. This is starting, Amberly's name has been called. She's headed toward the palace, the summer palace. And as she was walking through the summer court, all of these fae were chanting names. And they were chanting names of their favorites to win. But none of them chanted her name because no one knows who she is. She's just this unknown amidst like all of these royals and these other princesses, and she's just like a nobody. And as she's walking, she's like, oh no, what have I got myself into? Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should leave. So as she's escorted to her room, the king's assistant named Ganesha follows her because she can tell that Amberly wants to leave. All right, so starting in chapter 11. How did I miss it? How did I not realize my agreement was a binding bargain? Being almost caught lifting those beads, being ambushed by the High King in my hideout, and then unknowingly entering a bargain with that same king, I can't help but wonder if something else is happening. Have I been enchanted or cursed with something that is making me careless? But what he wants is impossible, I say to Ganesha Evernet, and even I hear the defeat in my tone. How can I possibly find out if the other contestants are conspiring or if they're truly here for the prince if we're always being watched? You're smart. I've heard stories about the antics you played as a youngling here at the palace, and the rumors of the expertise of the Silver Shadow are famous in all of Fairy. Some think the Silver Shadow must be an otherworldly being. The fawn's eyes widen in mock awe, but some of us know the truth. The truth? Yes, that the legend is merely a very talented halfling. I bite it down on my tongue hard. And they will not always watch you, Ganesha continues, walking toward the windows and peering out briefly before turning back to me. There will be plenty of moments when the winter magic is absent. How will I know when it's absent? I trust you'll figure it out. When she turns, she winks. But pay attention and take advantage of those times to learn all you can from the others. How? I want to ask, but grit my teeth instead. The Winter Princess is already suspicious, I say, folding my arms. And she knows I'm Star Fae. She thinks there is a conspiracy since I took the place of Princess Mora. The king's assistant lifts a brown eyebrow. It is not difficult for the pure to sniff out a halfling, she says. I assure you, the rest of the contestants also know you're a Star Fae. Besides, they chose Lady Pepper over the princess, not you. That's not what the rest of the fairy thinks, I say, and realize if the king shows Lady Pepper over a summer princess, she must be a serious contender, another one to watch and pay attention to. It does not matter what the rest of fairy thinks. It does, I mumble. They don't want me here. It could become dangerous, but I don't dare mention that. I can't let her see my fear. Ganesha walks toward me, her hooves clacking against the smooth tile of my room. Then make them love you, she says. Well, the magic will not always work. Much of the time it will, so you must be believable. Make them at least like you enough that you can stay until your task is complete. And Ryan? What does he think? I don't worry about using his shortened name. The fawn said she heard about my antics as a youngling, so she must know my connection to the prince. Prince Orion doesn't know, and it will stay that way. He doesn't know? Then why does he think the king called my name? I throw my hands in the air and walk backward. It's been a long time since I was here, but I doubt he's forgotten me completely. We never got along. He has been told you were here because of your father. I stop walking. The half-truth is not enough to tempt the prince to keep me around. I don't think you understand. Prince Ryan hates me. What's stopping him from sending me away the second he sees me? How can I do what the king asks if he doesn't know why I'm here? He won't send you away. You are guaranteed to stay through the first round. How can you be so sure? Because the prince will be flexible and will defer to his advisor's suggestions. Besides, I saw the prince's reaction when you were named. He was merely stunned, not angry that you were one of the chosen from summer. Merely stunned? My wings twitch. I want to scoff at her careful framing of the situation being me. So I'm guaranteed for the first round, but that might not be enough. It feels like I'll only be set up to fail. There's a lot of contests after the first round. How do I make sure I'm here until I've completed my task? Until I freed my father? There is no guarantee. After the first elimination, you are on your own. But if you win over Fairy and be amiable enough that the prince isn't in a hurry to send you away, your chances of staying could increase. Fantastic, just fantastic. Make a kingdom who thinks of me as a disgusting half-fae love me, and convince the prince not to despise me too. I don't know which task will be tougher. Staying long enough to succeed might be impossible. Ganesha is mistaken. She must believe Ryan is actually open to listening and trusting his advisors, but there'll have to be a very convincing argument because I clearly remember the prince hating me. The wicked smile he would flash after besting me at a game, the way he tugged at tiny strands of my hair and blamed it on invisible pixies. His unruly hair framed his intense glare and hardened mouth, watching me from a window when my father and I left for good. He was glad to see me go. But she says it's been guaranteed that I won't go home immediately. At least I have a little bit of time. When Ganesha leaves and I'm finally alone, I take in the elaborate room and laugh out loud at the absurdity of my situation. They gave me this room of luxury to use, all to keep up a farce, to keep up a lie. I'm not here to become a princess or a future queen. I was given this bedroom to be a spy. This room isn't the grandest thing I've seen in my life. I grew up in the palace after all, but I've had nothing so grand set aside just for me. Obviously, it's a giant step up from the lifestyle I've gotten used to: lumpy beds, cracked wash basins, and forgotten rooms full of cobwebs. But it's also more than I had when I lived here in Issa Ara. Our family's quarters at the palace were nice. They were clean and private. I had my own bed, and we had a private washroom. There was even a small chest where we kept personal items, like the few toys the queen gave me when she remembered I existed. It's no wonder that the huge bed, with a rich blue velvet covering, seems more like a dream than anything real. A pearl-covered vanity, decorated with gold leaf swirling patterns, sits opposite the bed with a mirror as tall as I am. I imagine the contestants will spend many hours sitting in front of identical vanities as the servants ready them for majestic balls and revels and outings with the prince. Every stroke of a brush, every curl of hair, every jewelry piece picked with the hope it'll make Ryan fall in love with them. Maybe the girls will confide in their servants about their growing feelings for the prince while they sit on their cushioned seats and express how desperately they want him to choose them. A sitting area is arranged near the window with 2 plush chairs covered with fabric that coordinates with the bed cover. I walk through the archway on the right and am pleased to see a washroom with a deep copper tub as its centerpiece. I hope to enjoy a hot bath at least once before I'm sent away. A light knock on my door brings a simple luncheon of chamois cheese, various fruits, and fluffy white bread. I sit in one of the chairs near the window and enjoy my meal while contemplating Ganesha Evernet's words. She said I'm smart and should be able to gather information while keeping the truth of my presence a secret from the others. But my experience tells me my chances are slim, and I'm not entirely confident that she or the king worry about what will happen to me if I fail. Not only will I lose my father forever, but thanks to the winter magic, everyone will know my face. I imagine the king will spin the story and make me the villain, denying that he had any part in it. Maybe he'll even find me guilty for the very thing he demanded I unveil, that I'm a contestant here, only to earn a crown and plan an assassination. But I am committed to my father, and even if I wasn't, I am bound by a bargain. I'm trapped. But hopefully my imprisonment in this luxurious gilded cage will be temporary. As long as I do as I've agreed, there's still a tiny chance I can free myself and my father. I must try. Ganesha advised me to make everyone like me enough to stay. Fairy, Ryan, and most importantly, the other contestants, since it's their secrets I must unveil. Then I can pass those secrets along to the king and earn mine and my father's freedom. Easy. I stare blankly out the window, my mind spinning with ideas to garner the trust of the other girls. The clouds passing are a cottony white blur, and what feels like only minutes are actually hours, because when I hear another rap at my door, the clouds have flattened into long fingers and the sky is stained with orange and purple. Will you be joining the other girls in the dining hall? Ganesha asks after letting herself in. Or should I ask the servant to bring your evening meal here? I think about my options. If I go to the dining hall, I have to act the part immediately. I would be wise to get started on gathering information, but I'm not ready. I need a decent strategy, a plan. Please have my meal brought here, I say. I'm not hungry anyway, I tell myself. The simple luncheon was enough to get me through until morning at least. My body isn't accustomed to regular meals. Ganesha nods once, then excuses herself. My eyes trail back to the window where a raven has perched outside on the window ledge. Its silky black coat shines with the setting sun, and I wonder absently if it's a shape-shifting Morgul, an autumn fae, or if it's just a common bird. If you're here to spy on the High King, you've come to the wrong window, I say to the bird. Before I can wonder if the raven can hear me through the pane of glass, it turns its head, looks at me with a beady eye, then lets out a loud cry, but only steps to make itself more comfortable on its perch. I promise I'm not interesting, I call, leaning forward on my chair and cupping my hands around my mouth. The real action is in the small dining hall where a bunch of females are likely tearing each other's eyes out because they all want the same thing. The raven doesn't even turn this time and ignores me instead. Just a bird, I mutter under my breath and slump back into the chair. And then something twists my insides. Or a lousy spy. What am I doing? I realize I'm giving the bird advice I should be acting on myself. I don't need a full plan. An evening of observation will help me form one anyway. I should observe the tearing out of the eyes and keep notes about the contestants while making sure my eyes remain in their sockets. If I want to free my father, I must take action. Chapter 12. There are protocols about wearing certain clothing to a formal meal, meaning the dress I bought in Herdan, then subsequently wore through the journey from spring court to summer, is not appropriate attire. It's exquisite enough, but it needs a good cleaning. But I'm out of time. Instead, I merely run my fingers through my silver tresses before marching out the door. Oh, says a servant I nearly bowl over, carrying a dinner tray. I've come with your evening meal. I'm dining with the other ladies in the dining hall tonight, I say apologetically. I had a change of heart. Her cheeks flush. The others have already gathered, she fumbles with her tray. Would you like me to show you the way? I have to bite my tongue from telling her I know the way. I could find my way in my sleep. But the fewer people who know my history, the better. Yes. She shifts the tray to her other hand, holding it upright with a bent elbow and gestures wordlessly that I follow. It's strange being back in these familiar hallways. My habit of moving like a ghost wars with my memories of running carefree through the castle. And strangely, the instinct to walk tall is winning. Perhaps because I lived here before I was forced to live in the shadows, before the need to be invisible was necessary for my survival. I lived here before I became a thief. Well, besides the occasional sneaking of pastries. The rugs lining the hallway are the same deep blue with golden swirls and the summer court crest in the center. As I follow the Fae down the staircase, I can't help but smile as I notice one of the gilded mirrors lining the wall still has a chip in it. It's a wonder no one has noticed and had it repaired. I had taken one of Ryan's toy soldiers without asking and was sliding it down the railing when he caught me. Although I had slid the toy at least half a dozen times without incident, he wanted to try, and one miscalculated twist of his wrist sent it careening down in a destructive path. It hit the mirror with enough force it fell from the wall. Luckily, I was quick and flew down to slow its fall enough that the mirror didn't shatter, but the mirror was still heavy and I was small, so it struck a stair and chipped the corner. Ryan helped me hang it back up on the wall and promised to take care of any fallback. I figured he admitted to the accident because I was never punished. I also assumed it would be fixed immediately. But the chip is still there. As I stare at it more, I notice a shimmer of light surrounding the chip and realize it has a small amount of glamour surrounding it. No one would notice the damage unless they knew it was there or specifically looked for it. And I realize Ryan told no one. Did he place the glamour to hide it? Prince Ryan is a summer fae, and I expect by now his magic would be stronger, but the magic looks like a light glamour even I could manage. Maybe he placed it when we were younglings and forgot about it. Maybe that's why he never enchanted the magic when he grew older and his magic became stronger. Is everything all right? The maid asks, pulling me from my thoughts, and I know she's struggling to balance the tray. Yes, I was just admiring the palace, I say, waving a hand in the air after briefly pointing at the mirror as I slowly descend to meet her. The Isa'ar palace is admirable, she says, but her expression shifts into one of horror as the tray teeters and tips backward. I fly down to right at mid-fall, but I'm too late and only manage to catch a sloshing bowl of hot soup before the remaining contents of the tray spill. But the servant's reflexes are quick, and she conjures a thick vine from the floor that quickly twirls around itself, creating a bowl-shaped small tree to catch the remaining food before it can soil the pristine rug below it. I've always liked the spring fae. It's the reason I spent so much time living in Rosewind. That was impressive, I say, gesturing at the vine that slowly sprouts tiny flower buds and leaves as the spilled food settles. We both breathe heavily, but she seems much calmer and more tranquil than she was when she first brought the tray to my room. You're different from the others. Different? How? My wings flutter in unease. She points at the bowl still cupped in my hands. The others would not have tried to help. Well, it seems you didn't need my help. You didn't know, she says, then fidgets and shuffles her feet from side to side. Do you think you can find your way from here? I should get this tree removed. Of course, but what will you do? I point at the foliage that is very out of place with its earthy brown and green against the gold and white and blue of the staircase landing. She smiles at her little tree, and an autumn fae who works with the water horses owes me a favor. I'll ask him to decay it before anyone sees it. Again, I'm impressed. You better go find him then. She curtsies and scurries away without another word, and I can't help but smile at her. I should have asked her name, but she reminds me of Clay and seems like the type who would be a good to have on my side. An ally. I could use an ally. As I make my way to the dining hall, contemplating how to get the spring servant assigned to me as a maid during the tourney, I become distracted by the different tapestries and paintings on the walls. Some I remember, some look newer. I don't have a specific memory tied to each one, but I linger as the familiar smells and textures and light ignites happy memories. New portraits of the royal family hang further down the hall. It will only take a minute to inspect them. I pass right by the dining hall, closing in on the largest painting. The portrait of the High King looks just as he does in person, from his flowing summer blonde hair to his smooth and pointed elven chin and ears. The Queen, Siora, a summer fae beauty with white blonde locks and pale pink skin, wears a crown of blood red roses that matches her lips. And finally, a familiar, sly smile paired with walnut-colored hair and golden cat eyes stare back at me. He's a very close likeness of the stranger I kept running into, dressed in elegance and encased in the large portrait. My throat tightens and my vision blurs as I think of 1,000 reasons why the young fae I once knew could not possibly be the stranger I recently met. The Fae who helped me escape my would-be captors could not be the prince because Ryan would revel in my capture. The Fae who wished me luck at the choosing could not be Ryan because he would sabotage me. He would reveal me as a thief and ruin everything. Have you lost your way? A guard asks. I can't tear my eyes away from the portrait to address him. If you were headed to the small dining room, you've just passed it. I clear my throat. Could you tell me who is in this portrait? That's the prince, he says. I hear the smile in his voice. Prince Orion Illumine. As a contestant of the concert tourney, I was curious you didn't recognize him. I press my hand to my churning stomach. We have not yet met the prince, I say, turning to him and managing a pseudo-embarrassed smile. I suppose I didn't recognize him from the images I remember seeing of him as a youngling. Yes, well, he's grown up now. Excuse me. I abruptly leave, walking as if I'm heading back to the dining room. Once the guard turns the corner, I sprint past it, blindly climbing the stairs without thinking where I'm going. How could I be so stupid? How did I not see it? How did I not recognize him? Angry tears burn my eyes, which only make me even more frustrated and upset that my human nature has suddenly trumped my more controlled Fae one. My forearm collides with the banister as I turn and stumble down a hall. I knew his eyes seemed familiar, but the last time I saw those eyes, they were attached to a cruel smile, gangly limbs, and greasy hair. He always had an air of arrogance about him. That memory of the toy soldier in the mirror was a rare one. He usually enjoyed tormenting me. But I saw none of that arrogance or that cruelty when he saved me in Rosewind, helped me escape capture for stealing, or when I saw him in Herdan and he wished me luck in being chosen for the tourney. It was as if he was a different person. Did he know he was talking to me the entire time? The instant he realized I didn't recognize him, did he take advantage and turn it into one of his games? One of his cruel glamours? My father's in town on business, he'd said. Of course. It all clicks. The day he was in Rosewind was the day his father, the king, appeared in my bedroom. Business in town. And then in Herdan when I saw him before the choosing. The choosing his father personally announced from the Spring Court Capitol. Business in town. I thought it would be hard to pretend to like the prince I used to loathe, who I still loathe. But now after he toyed with me already, some Fae are always cruel, never leaving behind their childish ways, and I'd fallen for the tricks of the one person I was supposed to manipulate. My plan was failing before it even began. But I have too much at stake to give up. I must regroup and strategize. My heart pounds, my stomach twists. The other contestants can't see me, not like this. I stumble through the hallways and my feet take over as my head and emotions reel out of control. Soon I recognize the path my feet are taking me. Back home, back in the direction my feet traveled thousands of times toward my old quarters, my old home, the place I was most happy. But when I see the edge of the door, I quickly realize my mistake in not heading back to my room immediately. Because leaning against the wall near my old doorway, tousled walnut-colored hair, and golden cat-slit eyes in his full princely attire, is Ryan. Chapter 13. Why? The word flies from my mouth, and I feel the familiar burning in my cheeks, accompanied by emotions I haven't felt in decades. Unease, self-consciousness, discomfiture, awkwardness, embarrassment. Pull yourself together, Amberly. Memories flood my head in succession, and I'm forced to close my eyes because I can't even look at the prince standing right in front of me. My childhood horror when I realized he turned my hair into seaweed. The time he trapped me on the palace roof for 3 days until it forced me to use my not quite developed wings to fly down. The day he shouted at me after I called him out for being a spoiled prince in front of Princess Ariel and Princess Mora. You can't speak to me like that, Amberly. I'm the prince, he'd said. His tantrum afterward only proved my point. I knew seeing him would bring up a lot of buried emotions, but with all the tormenting and teasing in the past when we were younglings, I expected I could see past it and do what I came here to do. I've matured, and I assumed he had too. But if he's up to his same tricks of making me feel foolish and lowly and unimportant, I don't know how I can possibly pretend to like him, let alone stay to do the king's bidding. Yes, you can, I tell myself. Amberly, you can. You're not the same girl you were back then. I can do this. I take a deep breath. Why didn't you tell me who you were? I ask, controlling my anger without dampening it. Ryan's eyebrows furrow and he steps toward me. I could ask you the same question, Amberly. I didn't recognize you, Ryan, I say, holding my ground and leaning on his name the way he leaned on mine. Yes, well, we could have resolved that little miscommunication if you just told me your name in Rosewind. Ha! I don't try to hide my incredulous look. I was running away from pursuers. The S comes out with a hiss. I had just stolen from a noble autumn elf. I wasn't about to introduce myself. Neither was I, he shouts. When I traveled to Rosewind, it was to have a moment of anonymity. Since I have no other duties to attend while traveling with my father, I glamored myself enough to not be recognized. Well, your glamour wasn't very good, I mutter, folding my arms. You don't look much different now. Well, besides your clothing. I wave a hand at his royal attire. It worked, didn't it? He scoffs. You said you didn't recognize me. I shrug but drop my arms. What are you even doing here? The prince asks, resting against the wall and oozing with disapproval. I told you in Herdan I received an invitation from the king. Then he called my name, and here I am. His cat eyes narrow and his arms cross. Just like that? My stomach clenches. Just like that? He repeats, frowning. You decided you wanted a shot at winning the concert tourney? His eyes narrow in disbelief. My pulse quickens. Just like that, you wanted a chance to become a queen of fairy? He pushes away from the wall, taking a step toward me and drops his arms. You wanted a chance to become my mate? He seems to spit out the hard T as if he's trying to expel the distaste from his mouth. The word echoes through the hallway. My throat tightens, but before I panic, I think about what the dark elf Fralvano taught me. We worked one job together long before I met Clay, but we kept in touch for a few years. Rav taught me some vital lessons, such as improvisation and controlling emotions, the best skills in a sticky situation. Lean into what he knows. Rav's words fill my head. Why he thinks you're here. I agreed because it's what my father would want, I say, then walk toward the door to my former home. I assume Ryan doesn't know my father has been in a dungeon for more than half a century. As Ganesha said, they told the prince I'm here because of my father. As I reach out to touch the smooth wood of the door, I run my fingers over the grain that runs from side to side instead of up and down. The unique direction of the wood grain has always reminded me of an embrace. My hand jerks back from the door as an overwhelming and suffocating feeling of belonging and home and the family I lost overcomes me. You and your father left in the middle of the night. The prince's voice is so quiet I can barely hear it. And you never even tried to contact me. All those years you could have come back, and you never did. So why now? Because I didn't want to land myself in a cell next to my father. But it's more than that. There was nothing here I wanted to come back to. I don't answer Ryan's question because that would require me to spill more than I'm willing, like the real reason I'm here. So I turn back to him, quickly picking out a truth that would reveal the least. I was a youngling. My choices were not completely my own. Besides, we're both grown now, and it seems like we've both changed. Why did you help me in Rosewind? You're the crown prince, and you helped a thief escape capture. You didn't turn me in, and you didn't demand that I return what I had stolen. That's a complicated question. His mouth twitches and he glances at the floor before securing his expression back to his former stoic one. But you reminded me of a silver-haired winged star fae I used to know. You don't mean me. Well, I didn't see your wings when we first met. They were concealed, but you still looked familiar, he shrugs. You looked a little like Amberly Kendra. Perhaps I wondered what had happened to you. I stopped myself before rolling my eyes. A prince could have approached me far easier than the other way around, but of course he couldn't be bothered to look for the star fae he never cared about. Wings might be uncommon on a star fae, but silver hair isn't, I say. But what about Herdan? You saw my wings in Herdan before the choosing. Did you know it was me then? I was distracted in Herdan. I was about to hear the name of my future wife and mate read by my father in front of all of Fairy. His glare shifts to one of my wings. Without permission, it flutters, feeling watched. His shoulders tense at the sight, but he continues. And when I finally saw your wings, I wasn't convinced who you were because you didn't have that when you left either. He touches the right side of his eye, gesturing at my promise mark. An enhancement tattoo? I bite down hard on my tongue at the insult. I wouldn't stoop so low, even if the spelled ink actually worked. I'm not ashamed of my weaker magic, Prince Orion. Orion presses his lips together tightly. Careful, I remind myself. I can't anger or irritate him so much that he sends me home before the tourney has even begun. Everyone assumes you would watch from Isaara, I say, forcing a softer voice as I pivot the conversation and gesture at the walls. From here, I didn't want to be observed, he said. I didn't need anyone analyzing my reactions to each of the chosen, especially Princess Ariel. So I traveled to the Spring Court capital to watch from the crowd. My eyes narrow. His mention of the princess is the sort of information I should pay attention to, especially his current feelings toward her. What do you mean, especially Princess Ariel? Did you know she would be one of the chosen? His nostrils flare and he pauses. I think he's about to end the conversation when he finally speaks, his voice low and crackling like badly conjured summer magic. Yes, and I believe the entire realm expects I'll choose Ariel in the end, but I don't believe any of the chosen were random. At that, he lifts his eyes to mine with such intensity that I feel like he might bore holes right through me. I'm forced to look away because he's too close to the truth, but he can't know what I know. Ganesha said he was in the dark as far as my true reasons for being a part of the tourney, and I can't let the king's secret slip. I think most of the girls assume you'll choose Ariel in the end, I gently prod for more information. His mood shifts and the tension turns thick. They have painted her as a favorite for over a century. Is she? If she is Ryan's choice, I'll merely need to focus on one contestant. His expression is stony. Perhaps you should ask her yourself. You were friends, or at least you were before you left. Is that venom I hear in his tone? Well, she didn't look thrilled to see me, I mutter under my breath. What was that? She hasn't said 2 words to me since I arrived, I confide, hoping it'll build goodwill. Although I'm boiling with frustration, she acted like she didn't even know me. Can you blame her? You left, and without so much as a goodbye. I start, but the words choke. Princess Ariel was mad that I left? Is Ryan upset because I hurt a friend we both cared about? I never meant to hurt Ariel, and if she's your choice, she will be a lovely queen. And I'll have to rekindle our friendship if I want to spy on her. Even though she's lived in the king's castle walls, he'll expect me to look under every pebble of her life, and I will. Shouldn't you be recommending yourself? He smirks, but I know he's calculating behind his cat eyes. Not one of the other contestants? I can't help the scoff that flies out. What, you don't think you're an option? But don't make him like you too much, because you won't be the one he chooses. Yeah, I don't need the memory of the king's words to remind me. I'm a star fae, my prince. I let the words sink in. Even if I were honestly selected and Ryan and I could actually tolerate each other, I'd be the least likely candidate to win. Right. Ryan's smirk wipes away and is replaced with a frown. Clearly you're not here for me. Perhaps you enjoy the life of a thief. He walks a few steps down the hallway. I suppose you're here for a hot bath and palace meals. A vacation. There's the charming prince I remember. He turns to look at me. Unless you truly do thieve for pleasure. In that case, I should ensure the crown jewels and everything in value is not within reach of your grubby hands. By his tone, he's clearly meaning it as a joke, but there's something in his voice, a pain I can't figure out. I have no need for crown jewels. We aren't supposed to officially meet until tomorrow. Can you get back without being caught? His words are clipped, but before I can respond, the corner of Ryan's mouth twitches upward. My mistake, he says with a shallow bow. Of course you can. Then he marches away without looking back. I don't make it to dinner. Thank you. Are they born in their courts or assign them later in life? They are born, it's kind of like they are born what they are. Like the summer fae have specific magic and the winter fae have specific magic. And Amberly, she is, so she's a half fae, but she's actually half summer fae. She's just been living in the spring court. So they can be in different courts, but they are what they are because of, I guess, genetics or whatever. And the winter magic they kept talking about, the watching winter magic, it's kind of like projection. Like everyone in fairy is able to watch the whole tourney, the whole bachelor competition, like as if they're like watching it on TV. So it's kind of like a hologram type thing. So yeah. If you want to read more, Catherine has put the links at the bottom of this video. Yes, Hunger Games Fae, kinda, yeah. So, I my comps that I it's kind of like the selection, if you've read the selection and Throne of Glass, it's kinda like that in Fae. It's also similar to these Hollow Vows and When Wishes Bleed with the bridal competition and everything. Has enemies to lovers, He Falls First, cross-class romance, all of my favorites. Thank you so much for having me, Catherine.